distant planet similar to his own, somewhere on the other side of our galaxy. Other intelligent beings wondered too, and set out in airships on an adventure through space to search for their answers.
The hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of cultured brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally. Pages of rejuvenated reaffirmation, simply the almighty leadership of insightful craft work that stands to build through any confrontation born to be. Yet his daily duty is as a journalist that questions properly, uses his ears for the good to filter the real. And as the art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best, again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian, he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt executed again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show on S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life, with the home-sewn garment, the Boricua with the build, the true and living God stepping in score, Sunyas Allah, a.k.a. Skillustrator Low, and we're on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media. Every intrigue will have its own show. Every incredible thought will have its own episode. And every timeless insight will be archived. Oh, man, I got to say it a couple of times, but, yo, this show is about my element of hip-hop. As I like to call a writer of art on art and science on music. The only show in history on the hip-hop writer element that I, a veteran over 20 years, helped pioneer. I said help pioneer. Put it overtly out there. Called it that. Okay? The art and art, I think, is the crucial part, man. It's always the crucial part. What type of creation do we give? Learning that creation is a process of synergy with all creations. And so we hear creations, we're inspired by creations, and then we create. The creator creates. Creation inspires creator, and then they create again. So the art and art, let's hit you with some art and art. There's a lot of segments today, man. It just depends on how long I'm going to talk about all of them. Will depend on what we get, though. But, man, I've been holding some segments for a while, so I might get lost talking about the funk. You know what I mean? And, but this art and art segment, I forgot where it's from, man, but I called it Saddled Supreme. Saddled Supreme, right? I wonder about these times saddled on this warring horse, showing the gallops like the ends of a rippling stream. Upon the refusal of the 30 pieces of silver, 49ers struck gold to feed yellow bellies, but 50 cents is a budget of integrity left not the abuse of any means necessary. See, some of these trails were dangerous enough to learn of all that I loved. If I thought my wisdom was a turning spoke, when others thought the hurdle was a fable, the wagon inked with the passengers of understanding. Well, now, I settle on the corner of the paragraph of painters, Basquiat and Scholes, letting my altered low become vintage, studying these seals they impress on the boardwalk. You know the realness is engraved deep in the town, and respect fake was only the talk of exiled highfalutin highbinders. Living here supreme, the ladies call it the sweet easel stride as we ride. Oh man, I forgot where I wrote that. But just playing around with metaphors, I think I was inspired by, it's probably from Cyrus Malachi, one of Cyrus Malachi's work, because he has an EP called Basquiat. One of the best EPs of the last year, you know what I mean? And I thought, you know, the way a lot of music goes, it's not really heard of, and it ends up being the job of the journalist, the job of the person with the forums to speak about this music, to really give it some context. But yo, last week's show was a great show with Tragedy Gaddafi. I look forward to building with the God soon. We're working on some things, so it could be really, really great. We'll see how that goes. But during that last week, something happened, and I needed to give it its own time and not be rushed, even though I don't need to spend too much time on this. But I don't go to shows often anymore. I get tired of seeing people. If I see new artists perform, it's a good thing, because I can see, well, you know, I can see their energy from a place where it might not be hampered by the constrictions of the way our music has been formatted. Our music is very formatted, just like any other genre over a long period of time. And sometimes it becomes difficult to see. For example, a lot of boom bap could be really rugged and tough, but it also could drown out the little eccentric nature, the little witticisms, the little inflections, the little styles. It could definitely drown out the pauses that a lot of MCs do, and it doesn't matter how good the MC is. Sometimes the thickness of the track we'll love more, but it also could do that. So, you know, it makes no why MCs like Brownsville Ka and Rock Marciano and stuff, they end up favoring music without heavy breaks into it. And even when Rock Marcy, if you're really listening, when Rock Marcy, especially his own, when he produces for himself, the track could be thick as hell. Like it'll have its drums, it'll have its, you know, kicks and snares and all that. And it'll have its bass lines rumbling properly according to each kick and snare. So it could drown out the typical MC, but his is slightly a little bit more sparse, a little bit more open, and I think that's deliberately so, you know what I mean? And it's just a side note. This thing just came to me right now. I got a whole bunch of shit written to share with y'all, but I just thought of that. But we don't always get to see the levels of an artist. And I got to go see a Frank Knight show. He invited me. I had learned about the show after, and it was I didn't need to be invited. I just needed to find time to link up and actually go to a show to see Frank Knight again. I saw Frank Knight years ago, maybe 2012, 13. I would say 2013, maybe 14. And his show was dynamic, though. So much so that I wasn't used to it. I'm used to people just grabbing the mic, speaking toward us, rapping toward in our direction. You know, that's all you can appreciate from most MCs today, like that they rap in the direction that you're standing at and shit. You know what I mean? Stage here, they're down there. Hopefully they just aim the lyrics at our fucking heads. You know what I mean? And Frank Knight was different. He was rhyming toward us. He was rhyming to us, and he jumped down into the crowd, and you know, he was really intense and hopping everywhere that I almost felt like, wow, you know, it's an interactive experience. Am I doing this right? I told Frank that too when he was here on the show. And I always tell him that. I was like, yo, am I doing my part? Am I fucking up the show? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm usually just a watcher. I don't engage. I'm one of those that I don't be yelling everything. I don't be raise your hands in the air like you just don't. I care. I fucking care. You know what I'm saying? I care about my energy. You know, I want to be on. If my ears are shot out, I still want to be on the train going home and be able to read a book. Nice. You know what I mean? With some nice. Right now it's Brother Jack McDuff. You know what I mean? That's my thing right now. Brother Jack McDuff. You know what I mean? And I want to be able to read. So I'm not. I care, and I'm not raising my hand in the air because I care. You know what I'm saying? I care about my energy and shit. You know, I don't want to do this exercise and shit, right? And but Frank Knight's different. You know what I mean? He's really speaking to us. And when you watch him perform, you don't want to mess that up. You want to do everything to make him feel he can really expose himself. Even though we probably doesn't need us to do all that, but we feel invested in him because he's sharing these ideas with us. It becomes an intimate experience. That's what I felt with a small performance and maybe a couple of songs. You know, that this was the potential. Well, when I saw Frank Knight perform about 2 weeks ago, it no longer is potential. I've been told he's been rhyming this way for a while. And the more that he collects material, what will stop Frank, all Frank Knight needs, there's nothing really that could stop him. Now, I gotta rewind. Frank Knight, all Frank Knight needs is the time to release all of these ideas that he has. Because what I saw in that basement at the Delancey while we was burning our ass off because it was cold as hell and the heat was crazy, I saw a lot of good performers. Sans is one of them. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say who they were because I don't like giving artists who I find to be gimmicks. I couldn't get over it. It was too gimmicky. You know what I mean? And as a hint, I couldn't tell if they was gay rappers, if they was rhyming about being gay, or they was just rhyming about being heterosexual in the most gayest way possible. It was only till the end, though, that I did get their lyrics, and I realized they're not rhyming the gay things. I don't know if they're gay, you know what I mean? I don't know if they're rhyming, but they were rhyming gay shit. And I didn't know if they were gay until I heard all the lyrics. You know what I'm saying? I had to hear the whole verses in total confusion. You know, like I was in pause mode. Like I never knew what pause mode was as a whole body structure. You know, we have it in conversational tone. But I was in pause mode my entire body structure because if I groove, they were using old breakbeats. So if I groove to the breakbeat, that's pause. That's my body is now in pause mode. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know until the end. So I'm not going to mention the name because I thought it was a gimmick. I didn't really care for it. You know? But everybody else he brought on was pretty next level. You know what I'm saying? There's a sister named Leona J. I learned about her and her lineage. I won't mention it. I don't know, it's something to not snitch on or something like that. But not only was she beautiful, but she also had a real command of the mic. I'll give the secrets to my producer after the show's over, though, about that. But it was a fun show. A lot of great artists performing. But when Frank Knight got up on that stage, though, and this is the claim I'm making. I'm claiming that Frank Knight is not only the greatest performer of this invisible renaissance this decade here that I've seen, he is on the level. See, and the light came in, though. It's like some Jesus Christ shit, some mystery God shit. Because, you know, our producer is literally a mystery God. Right? He's the mystery God. And I think Frank Knight, I'm saying this, I think Frank Knight is top 10 all-time performers, all-time MCs. I put him in the top 10. There's a couple of guys I haven't seen, but I've seen YouTube. I've read about them. I've read about the engagement. And you never can put them in a context. So there's some like Busta Rhymes and I think the most important MC I never really seen live is probably Public Enemy. Chuck D of Public Enemy. I think that's the most important artist that I've never seen live. Personally, it would be G-Rap for me personally. But a lot of people diss his show and stuff. And I never seen Nas either. They diss his show. I never seen them live. But I heard it was dope. Yeah, you're not the first person to tell me it was dope. But when we talk about the upper canon, people always mention that I haven't seen Public Enemy, Chuck D and Public Enemy, and Busta Rhymes, right? But I'm going to say this, right? The best performance live I've ever seen, though, all time is definitely KRS-One. The guy did all the elements, though. I got the hat to prove it. I had this nice camo fitted though with a buffalo. You know, like my indigenous shit. I always got indigenous shit, and it was a little tight on me, so I didn't give a fuck. He wrote KRS-One in that shit. I said, "Oh man, I ain't got a haircut, so I gotta wear this shit going back home. But this is the last time I wore it though, and it wasn't raining, so I was like, okay, all right." That was it. I stopped wearing it though. You know what I'm saying? There's only two fitteds I don't wear ever again. That one and the fitted. My Sean Price fitted because Sean Price gave it to me. He gave it to me. So I was like, nah, I can't wear that again. Fuck that. Those are keepsakes. And but he did all the elements. Like he was going out there, he did freestyling. He went in there, he was freestyling and everybody's shit. And yo, KRS-One doesn't freestyle like, hey, he's got a cat in the bag, he's rolling up weed. Oh shit, look at that. I got a need, you know, like it's not shit like that. He's rhyming philosophy and shit. Like he's rhyming ideas that he has in his head the last week and shit. You know what I mean? It's like pseudo lectures that he be rhyming. I never seen anything like it. You know what I mean? And it rocks too. You know what I'm saying? And boy, if there's one guy that'll blow your ears out, is KRS-One. His son was DJing, and he kept pulling up the volume. He said, "It's not loud enough." And yo, when Love's Gonna Get You, that booming bass of Love's Gonna Get You, it got my ears, though. That's the first time I ever left a concert and didn't listen to anything. I usually listen to, like, smooth jazz, some soul jazz, right? You know, some Jimmy Smith, right? Some Brother Jack McDuff, Stanley Turrentine. These are my three go-tos with the smoothness. Miles Davis ballads, I couldn't listen to anything. Yo, I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear anything. It was like, I was with the God Day son. I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. I said, let's just go home because this shit is over. Like, I don't know what the fuck you talking about. I just went home. But KRS-One is the best. And I consider the best the one who could rock, the one who does the most different things. And it's unfair, but the guy who has the infinite catalog, KRS-One could rock classics throughout the entire night. Throughout the entire night, he could do classics that make you scream just like that. And that's the thing that Rakim has. He's not the greatest performer, but he has a great aura. You know? He has a great aura. And his whole catalog, yo, God, oh, man. He did all of Paid in Full, and he did most of a chunk of Follow the Leader, and he was doing Don't Sweat the Technique. I got to rhyme along the whole fucking way. I got to rhyme the whole fucking way. But the greats of all time, I'll mention three that I've ever seen. If I said my three, KRS-One. After KRS-One, I got to put Black Thought in there. And it's because I seen Black Thought perform 5 times. Okay? I seen him with his band. I seen him as a performance band where they were doing like a specific gimmick. I'm going to use the word gimmick, but a specific routine, where they were doing classics of others. Like this that time when he was doing like Guru, where he would do Step in the Arena shit, and he'd do Kane's voice and shit. You know what I'm saying? And he would do G-Rap. He did Men at Work. He G-Raps Men at Work, but he didn't do one verse, chorus, then one verse. He did both of Men at Work's verses together with no stopping. That's nuts. That's nuts. I can't even read that shit out loud without stopping and taking a breath. And he was doing that. I saw Black Thought at, I forget where, Knitting Factory, when Knitting Factory was still downtown, right? I saw Black Thought do a set at Knitting Factory, half an hour, with DJ Questlove as a DJ. There's no band. You couldn't even fit the band there, right? And he rhymed for a half hour straight. No choruses, just kept going from song to song. A master of breath control. And when his band is there, a master at different takes of his songs. So it's almost a jazz performance. I saw him do You Got Me as a heavy metal track. This is when he had locks. And he took off the the whole Scully, and he was head banging with the whole shit. I saw this when he was hosting the OK Player Tour, and then they did songs at the end because you can't leave him like that. And I gotta say, I just can't not put Black Thought #2 because I don't think that anybody else could do that, and his catalog is deep. People want to say he doesn't have the solo material, but his actual material is very, very deep. You know what I mean? I mean, it's literally like saying that KRS-One's BDP material isn't KRS-One material. You know what I mean? So that's really irrelevant. And I guess as a Wu head, my #3 has to be Method Man. Has to be Method Man because I never seen a performer be so agile and nimble on stage until Frank Knight. It was Method Man. I've seen Method Man climb up rafters. I seen him stage dive. You know what I mean? I seen him kick my brother in the head with clean Air Force Ones. You know what I mean? Clean. You know what I mean? I told my brother, I said, be careful. You're in the front. Method Man is going to stage dive. He didn't want to fucking listen to me. He was like, fuck this. He had glasses on. Method Man stage dive. He just nicked. I'm telling him, to this day, my brother, I love you. He just nicked your glasses. Don't hate Method Man. He said, fuck Method Man forever. He stage dived, and I couldn't save him because some white groupie girls got in front between me and my brother, so I couldn't fling him close and take him away from the stage dive because he wasn't ready. And he stage dove, and he got nicked a little bit. Didn't break his glasses or nothing like that, but it definitely got him heated, though. You can't touch him. You can't touch him. He's like, fuck hip-hop. It was too interactive for him. It was too interactive. But, yo, Method Man is the most agile, flowing performer I've ever seen. He glides from part to part, and he brings you in it. What I'm saying is, like, there's people that could give you the soul of their lyric. He can give you the soul of his lyric. It's just something amazing. You know what I mean? Especially when he does. I don't know what it is, because I think it's one of the greatest songs of all time. It's probably my #1 song of all time. If I had to pick that and Mass Appeal, personal favorites. But Triumph. When Method Man performs his verse on Triumph, it's something to watch. You know what I mean? It just kills. And then you see the contrast, because when You God comes and does his verse, You God still dances like this. He still does this. It's so old school that you see, like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, you appreciate Method Man more after you see, like, the dated motions of You God, you know? He looks like he's dancing to the spinners and shit. You know what I mean? When he does a show. But those are my 3, KRS, Black Thought, and Method Man. I've seen a lot of great performers, but everyone else I've seen I wouldn't put in that level, so I put those 3. I'm going to say that I wouldn't be upset if in a top 10 all-time list Frank Knight was put in there. Frank Knight goes up there, and his songs, now that he has a deeper catalog, they go through stories. They go through their stories, and he engages with the audience. If he's doing a song about a girl, he's going to jump in there and grab a girl, rap those lyrics to her. He's going to engage people in the audience as the people he's speaking to in the verse. But he's also going to act out the verse. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean it like just the song where he was talking about that black dick in the white girl while she's sniffing white girl, where he was pumping like Elvis Presley on steroids. You know what I'm saying? He was pumping the pelvis. But he just has a herky-jerky slide that it just looks like he's appearing and disappearing from one place to another. I said Method Man flows. He kind of like disappears, like he pops into different parts of the stage. You know, he kicks, he throws like kicks and jabs and punches, and he acts out the actual lyrics, you know what I mean? Shit, by the end, he tore off. He did the Hulk Hogan, though. He took off his sweater, and he had a T-shirt on, and he ripped that shit off. He just ripped it all off, though. He was like, you know, I'm only 16 with an M16, and I had seen him perform that verse. And now it became something even more passionate, though. By the end of the show, his Timbs were off. He was wearing his tank top, His Timbs were scattered all over the stage, and he was just drenched with sweat, just going in. It was incredible. It was incredible. You know what I mean? And I just don't I don't see other artists even doing it. And now if I see another artist of this era, I don't care how great they are, because I think they're essential MCs. You'd be taking his show. So it's too late already. You know what I'm saying? The great MCs, the great MCs, they actually get you to feel their lyric. But no one makes it theater in this era like Frank Knight. You know? And KRS's theater has always been his persona, the teacher. So you feel like you're in an edutainment, you're literally in an edutainment facility. And KRS-One is leading the show. With Method Man, it's about expressing his soul in the most smooth, gliding way, everywhere. And with Black Thought, it's about the jazz performance, you know, performing that song in a different way every single time. That's why you can't see Black Thought once and tell me what you think about him. You got to see him a couple of times. You got to catch him free here. You probably have to go to Fallon a couple of times too, because I guarantee you, I haven't spoken to anybody really that's seen him at Fallon, but I guarantee you off air, that verse is continuing to go, because he don't stop. I seen him host the OK Player Tour, and he was kind of annoying the other artists though. They were like, hey, listen, we set up already, we're ready. And he's still doing bars. He's still rhyming and shit. Like, they're like, I saw Kweli like this. He was like, yeah, I'm ready. When he was doing, I forgot what Kane song he was doing. And Kane actually came out, though. Kane was like, all right, you ain't got to do me anymore. You ain't got to do my imitation anymore. You could chill. Black Thought is permanently in Redman at the end of Time for Some Action. You know what I mean? At the end of a Black Thought performance, it's like, yo, chill, you ain't got to say no more. You ain't got to say every show. Yo, chill, you ain't got to say no more. Every single, I've been to countless Black Thought shows where they're like, it's all right, man. You don't have to keep going. We got other guys now. We got other guys. It's ready for the other nigga. You know what I mean? It's a fucking, it's a pleasure to watch. Those are three, and I'm not gonna rank people of this era, but I'm gonna say that Frank Knight is the best, and so good that he can be in an all-time list. He's that good. And when his catalog, that's what's missing. His catalog isn't deep enough. When his catalog has, I'm saying, when his catalog has 10 albums, it's going to be amazing to watch, because you won't know what's coming. You know what I mean? It'll be like all the greats, you know what I mean? Like, because that's what makes the greats the greats. Like, when you go see Stevie Wonder, though, he's going to disappoint you. There's going to be a classic that he doesn't get to do. You know what I'm saying? He better do mine, though, when I see him, because that shit, his tickets are about fucking $800 and shit now. You know what I mean? But, that's all I have to say about that. You know what I mean? But, you know, gliding through, right? Gliding through. I wanna keep going with hip-hop stuff. I'm changing the name of the segment. This next segment, though, I was calling it, Who Gives a Fuck? And I was thinking, like, yo, the people that listen, anybody, they might give a fuck. They actually might not be me and give a fuck about whack shit. You know what I mean? So I'm renaming it and saying this segment is called No Fucks Here. It's a quick segment. No fucks here. Everywhere else, there might be fucks roaming. People might grab a fuck. They might give a fuck here, give a fuck there. And there might be charity fucks everywhere. For me, this is my no fucks here. You know what I mean? And it's an old one because it shows you that in this long time span, I still don't give a fuck. This one, I can say, is Dame Dash versus Funk Flex. There's no fucks here. I give no fucks about all of that. I don't want to hear people championing Dame Dash as like some amazing businessman and shit like that, because if the stuff that I find to be heinous as far as selling out the music, doing crossover tracks, mixing it in with some hardcore slab, making a whole persona where it's hard to muddling the line. That's Jay-Z's career musically. We're not even talking about anything else. Dame Dash has a part in that. Dame Dash has a part in that. So anything he says, though, about crying about this and that, and then all of a sudden he's crying that, you know, because if you guys haven't heard, Dame Dash and Jay-Z are no longer a thing here because Jay-Z admitted that his word is not bond. This nigga said his word is not bond. You know? He said in the blueprint, I'm not Santa Claus, though. We didn't sign a contract. There's you sign a contract or you give a handshake. Handshake, his word is bond. So I said, my word is not bond. Fair enough. His word is not bond. Sometimes people suffer when their word is not bond, but they was enjoying that shit. They was all up in it when the guy's word was not bond, as long as it wasn't not bond to you. As long as it was not gold bond for you, it was all gold. You know what I'm saying? It was gold bond when it wasn't bond with anyone else, though. You know, but now that lotion wore out, and now we have to feel like you're a businessman that has strive and shit like that. I just don't feel it, though. I don't feel it, though, and this is not where you get the capitalist love stories here. So, on to the next. And Funk Flex, come on. I did an expose that he could not sue the source with. I proved that he was taking payola, and he never, ever mentioned or talked about suing the source ever. Never did it. I remember we did it, me and the guy Dayson. Dayson was editor-in-chief and was listening to Hot 97. The only time I listened to Hot 97, I said, yo, if Flex mentioned this shit, we're going to go down there. You know what I mean? We're going to go down there, right? We're going to confront him. Shit. I said, yeah, let's do it, though. Because at the source, though, this shit got boring, though, because they listen to horrible music all times, and it's just a stress, though. It's like, I never been, when you're at hip-hop magazines that are commercial, music becomes a chore. It becomes work. It's not fun anymore. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't fun anymore. This was going to be the most fun I had. And he never mentioned us. He didn't talk about the source this, the source that. And so it was a little bit of a disappointment, though, right? I was like, all these rappers, they got to get shot at and all that kind of shit, and Hot 97 and shit. You know, I would like to say I took a Hodge there and got to rub the respect fake stone at Hot 97. You know what I mean? But I didn't, though. You know what I mean? I didn't get to rub the white respect fake stone. It's a white stone, by the way, if you want to know. So it's a pale white stone. It's the respect fake stone. You know, when you make your Hajj to Hot 97, you rub it. You know what I mean? But no fucks here for that, though. But you know, it leads me to my next segment, media mutations. Right? They're all gonna hinge on each other, though. Media mutations. I have this thing. When I was researching everything about Tragedy Gaddafi, refreshing myself again and again, I was watching the Drive-By podcast with Chris Castro, which is a really good podcast. You know what I'm saying? He's got a lot to say, and it's sincere. You know what I mean? Like, and he's a good interviewer. That's some people just know how to have a conversation with people. You know what I'm saying? And some people actually do some research. He does research. If you listen to the episodes, he's not just like, yeah, I know about you from. No, he's actually did a couple of Googles, like, you know, wrote some notes. And in this case, put some notes in his head because he's driving the car. He can't have notes. He's not going to crash the car, right? Maybe when he parks it. But they, you know, him and Tragedy, their episode, they were talking about, where was this them alone? They were talking about culture vultures, and we talked about it last week. But I wanted to bring a point that I bring up a lot, and I always like to have this understanding on repeat. You know, there was a point that was made that when you can't always hate on people that you think are a culture vulture because they did a lot for the culture. And they mentioned people like Russell Simmons and others, Leo Cohen, right? Let's use Leo Cohen, right? Jimmy Iovine. Let's use all those guys, like the Interscope people, all that. When you get an album you find to be great or seminal in hip-hop, you salute these guys because they put it out. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not including Russell Simmons. That's a whole bag of something else. I'm not even going to go there because that's not definitive, and I don't want to get definitive about something. But most of these labels have put out great works, though. Do you think it's our responsibility to salute a guy that put out a work that he had no intention and really didn't understand? You know, half of the stuff in the 90s, I tell you, the labels run by whites, blood-sucking this music, they had no idea what was being said on those records. No idea. You know what I'm saying? Until the roots of genius.com begin with Ola.com. This is a real history. What is it? Official hip hop lyrics archive. How many niggas know about that? Ola, official hip hop lyrics archive. When you look up old lyrics in genius.com, don't be thinking they care about the classics. That's why they're in here. No, they just jacked it from that site and put it in there. They don't give a fuck about the lyrics to, obscure 90s records. They care about Future's lyrics. Those 1 to 2 sentences that everybody's been repeating, and no one needs transcription of that. No one. Right? No, right? Was it Molly or Monty? I'm not really sure what the lyric was because it changes my whole understanding of this drug junkie song. No, that's not the case. You know what I mean? I remember when I was at All Our Recordings, though, they did some pop. It was pre-reggaeton shit. And they had me transcribe a song, though, and all they said was, "Hoot that pumping." Do you know how many times that they said that shit? I had to write it down. 75 times. This is disgusting, God. This is disgusting. But going to the culture vulture thing, right? When you say somebody's a culture, oh no, they did things for the culture like Puffy, he brought out Biggie and stuff like that. That's a culture vulture. Biggie's whole format was abusing the commercialism of his own skill sets. And if you think it was allowing him to eat, I'm going to say this. It would have been a different story, though, because I guarantee you that Biggie would have had that shiny suit and would have been floating along with Mace and Puffy in the video. And we would have sang a different story. We would have been singing a different story. A lot of people, with Biggie, we didn't get to see how the blood-sucking and the forced selling out of someone would have destroyed a career. And how many other things did Puffy destroy? You know what I'm saying? But we give him credit because there were some things that we enjoyed that he came from. So we don't want to say anything without feeling like a hypocrite. It's not hypocrisy, it's contradiction. But what I'm saying is that when we look, the people that bloodsuck will absolutely do something for it because that was the entry point. A bloodsucker of a culture usually needs an entry point for validation to get into culture. You remember when Redman said, I hate when sellouts use the underground for a comeback. He said that in There Is a Dark Side album. Forgot which song. That's my favorite Redman album. And when you get that, what also is a sellout? What we understand is that a sellout is a combination of things. A sellout literally is what level of culture vulturing we are speaking on. A sellout is someone who has something of worth and often has done something of worth and then sells it where the entire ethos of that work with their next work. In other words, the ethos that they did their greatest works with, their next one will sell it all out. But we loved what they first gave to the game. So we don't want to say that they're a sellout because it's also hinging on us enjoying the record. But I'm sorry, that's part of life. That's part of life, that the artists themselves will mar their own works with their own way of life, the next work. And artists will mar their own history. You know what I'm saying? With the things that they do in life. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? That's a fact. Let's say, Boots Riley of The Coup, who I have a lot of respect for because he's one of the few that has has always had a real insight and a real understanding of what it is to be anti-capitalist. And be willing to critique that while you make money here. And embrace that contradiction. Let's say the next album, he's totally Disney. Like, he's totally Disney. He goes totally Disney on the shit. It actually will mar and ruin the classic works that he has. That's just the way it is. There's no way around it. You know what I mean? Just like every time I listen to Outkast, I listen to the first 3 albums, I go, man, this guy was amazing. And this nigga wore a dress like a bitch. This nigga, fuck, man. That's how, and every listening session, like I get tired of like I'm like, woo, because oh man, those first three good Outkast albums, they were doing some shit on them, lyrically, musically, and I go, woo, I gotta listen to this again. Nobody's fucking with this still. There are sounds and ad-libs no one's even copied yet, and then at the end of every session, I'm like, okay, I have my fill. This motherfucker, you know what I mean? He wore a sundress. He was wearing sundresses out this bitch, looking like a damn buffoon. And that's how I end every session of Outkast. Listen, I end it everywhere. I go, fuck. You know what I mean? CeeLo too. This guy was wearing a wedding dress. He posed in a shoot wearing a wedding dress. What the fuck is that about? You know what I'm saying? But CeeLo, one of the GOATs. So when we talk people selling out, it doesn't always mean that they can't come back. You know what I mean? And that that they wouldn't earn our respect and things like that. You know, some of Nas's best songs are about identifying some of the road that he took selling out. You know what I mean? Remember the death of Pablo Escobar? That's what that song is about. That's what that song is about, because he looked like a damn buffoon wearing leather. Every attempt at Nas wearing leather was trying to be like Tupac. And it was a virus that affected all of the East Coast. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of New York niggas hate on Tupac. It's not because they hate on Tupac only, but they also, it's Tupac's fault because he infected all the dope rappers. But the stylist of the era is, he could be the realest nigga. Like I consider Tupac. And they could affect negatively the era. Just like to this era and the future, this next 10 years, trust me, a lot of it, the next 5 years, Rock Marciano will ruin a lot of dope rappers and whack rappers. Everybody's going to do the ejaculates. You know what I mean? Rhyme every verse like you busted a nut with 10 hoes in the studio. You know? That's what I call Rock Marciano verses, ejaculates. You know what I mean? They're not bars. They're not punchlines. They're ejaculates. You know what I mean? Everything is like, yeah, we shoot him up. You know, get him. And everybody's biting that. Smooth tone, smooth, like rhyme it off kilter. You know what I mean? Not caring about in the pocket or not. You know what I mean? Make your own pocket wherever it is, right? It's all from Rock Marcy, right? But a lot of guys were selling out. Doesn't mean you can't come back. But when we talk about a vulture, it's someone that what they gave isn't enough to hide that their whole purpose there has been about blood-sucking it. And the terms of most of these record label owners has been about blood-sucking. You know what I mean? But I'll leave it there. It's just for an idea, right? And to segue, the bonus media mutations that's going to segue into the answer into this next segment, right, is there's always been an excuse for bad music, right? And an excuse of the addictiveness of a sound collection as junkie music. So we are dismissing the junkie that makes addictive music because we say he's a junkie and he's making music that is very addictive. And so it's addictive, but it's bad anyway, but that's what makes it so good because it's not good music. But that's not the point. It is the point. And segueing into this classic crates, I'm going to go through I was thinking about it. Possibly the greatest junkie record of all time. Of course, we probably have a lot of rock albums that people would vibe for, but I'm talking about black music, the funk, the fucking funk. This album was when they were marred, drugs were marring the sessions, they were causing fragmentation among the artists in the group, and they made, to me, their illest shit ever. So in Classic Crates, I like to give you a crate that you gotta have, but then I want to give you something that's actually a crate, you know, like something that you may not know about that I just love. It may not be great. In this one that I'm going to give is not considered great, but I love it. I love it. So the Classic Crate, the one that you must have, is probably, if I had to pick, you know, because it might switch later, but consistently throughout the years, I've used this a lot and said it was my favorite funk album of all time. Sly and the Family Stone's 1971 album, There's a Riot Going On. This album is one of the dopest fucking albums I ever heard, right? And it's junkie music. So all these junkies have no excuse for bad music because this shit is a banger. Let's talk about it. Um, Here's what people say about this. There's a Riot Going On gets credit for being a proto-hip-hop sound. The reason for that is because they say it has the use of, and I agree with all this. This is why I'm repeating from bits and pieces that I've in my studies. The use of hard funk rhythms, primitive drum machines, extensive overdubbing, and unconventional mixing techniques. Significant amount of tape hiss. You know, when you listen to There's a Riot Going On, you hear the thickness, but you hear like boom, 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 and you hear a lot of hiss on that shit. It sounds like a Black Moon record. It sounds like hip hop shit, you know. And I got this record already in the mode of I'm extending my collection based off of hip hop crates. So I love this record because of that. It hit me right at the time where I want to hear records that influence hip hop. At that time in my life when I began to collect crates like that. And a lot of people say that the tape hiss comes from the result of Sly's extensive re-recording and overdubbing during production, right? So just some side notes. The album's plan title was Africa Talks to You. And it was retitled in response to Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, which to me I consider the greatest soul album of all time. So you get a 2-for-1 here. I'm telling you, 2 albums you got to have. Like, don't say you got some soul shit and you ain't got those 2 albums in your collection. You know what I mean? You ain't got the soul, you ain't got the funk if you ain't got these, right? It's very limited what you got. You know? And Sly and the Family, There's a Riot Going On was one of the first albums to filter drums. You know, we always hear about people loving filtered drums, like the difference between Roots' Illadelph Half-Life versus the second Illadelph album, and then the third one, Illadelph Half-Life, the thicker sound, the things that Beatminers were doing on Into the Stage, and absolutely throughout the entire Smith & Wesson debut, The Shining, right? That's what a filtered drum sounds like. What is a filtered drum? Filtering is when you de-emphasize or emphasize a range of frequency to accentuate something. So in this case, you're accentuating like the bass rhythms and stuff, and you're literally eliminating much of the treble. You know what I mean? And think about that. He's eliminating the treble, so when we hear the tape hiss on the Sly, it sounds dope. It doesn't bother us. It sounds funkier. You know, it's just a fucking master. And, you know, he was doing this while he was getting fucked up. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's just amazing. But, yeah, it fucks me up, man. I love this record. But when we talk about people using overdubbing equipment like that, this becomes a significant way that reggae music is developed, by the way, just so you know. You know what I mean? Reggae music does not develop without the machines. That's why, like, when we talk about, oh, hip-hop's the first music to use technology in such a way, not really. It would really go to reggae. It would really go to reggae, you know what I mean? And the legendary, you know, producers that were all working during that time, you know what I mean? But as far as, like, classics in America, a lot of great records were using overdubbing, post-mixing, taking snippets out, putting in other places. I'll give you an example of legends that were doing that around these times. You have Miles Davis, who first started doing that in a silent way. Right? His I forgot the name of his one of his producers. It was Maceo or something. Teo Macero. I forget his name. And in a silent way and a lot of stuff, Miles was having people just play for hours, and he was just sampling the bits that were dope and making records out of that. And in the silent way, the reason that groove is consistent for 20 minutes is because he's looping it. Just dope shit. Just dope shit. And that's 1969. Charles Mingus, another favorite of mine. For some reason, these become my favorites. Charles Mingus, Black Satan and the Sinner Lady, which is still my favorite album of Mingus. In 1963, he was mixing and splicing different parts for those 4 songs called Track A, Track B, Track C, and D, which are amazing. One of the most amazing livest jazz albums you'll ever hear. Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. And then there's in the salsa, there's Eddie Palmieri when he started to deal with I'm forgetting the name of that singer. I'm gonna get that singer because I get Eddie Palmieri doesn't get a lot of credit for making classics with other singers. And I'm gonna see who was singing on that. All right, come on, help me out, Googles. What's the matter with you? He's on the cover. Yeah, Lalo Rodriguez, Lalo, you know. And Lalo had a typical Boricua singing voice. You know, that high pitch, though, like that high pitch. And with Son of Latin Music in 1974 and then Unfinished Masterpiece in 1976, he was cutting and splicing. Yo, by the way, fun fact. Eddie Palmieri's Unfinished Masterpiece was called Unfinished Masterpiece. This is like record labels ain't shit. The label took his unfinished work and just packaged that and sold that shit. Wasn't even finished. And unless you know that, that shit sounds amazing. But that was also the end of that tenure with that label, because when somebody takes your work and you ain't finished it and you still alive, that's problems right there. But he was doing that stuff. So a whole bunch of different black genres of the black diaspora were doing these things. But listen, when you listen to Sly's There's a Riot Going On, listen to Family Affair. That shit is always getting played in commercials, but play it on a real speaker. Listen to the bass lines and the guitar whamps, the way they layer ridiculously. You know what I mean? That's why I hate hearing songs in commercials, because you don't get to hear that thickness. You know what I'm saying? The textures. That's a song of textures, and it gets dismissed. You know, I never liked that song. The song is not about the singing there. You know, it's a family affair. It's about that whomp. You know what I mean? That guitar whomp, you know? And check out the pop, the way it pops out, the guitar twang plucking on Africa Talks to You, you know, and the Asphalt Jungle. Listen to the way he's got the guitars popping right at you at a different frequency, so it's almost popping in, you know? It's almost like a great record where the record is thick as hell, like a primo beat, and yet Guru's verse, without yelling, is popping into the speaker. That's just mastery. It's just mastery. Then, Thank You for Talking to Me, Africa, a track that has everything ill about Sly. It's a perfect capsule of his legend. If I use it like one example of it was, you got his bottomed funk thickness, the guitar lick stylings, the chant harmonizing and wailing, and it's all in literally a song about black homage. It's perfection. You know what I mean? You know, people talk about being unapologetically black, and this is a theme song. This was a theme song. You know what I mean? And if you get the remastered version from 2007, you get some instrumentals that go along with that are dope. Like, Do You Know What? And I bring these up because you could hear what I'm talking about isolated without the vocals. You know, and you kind of hear what I'm talking about isolated in those instrumentals. You hear the thickness on Do You Know What? My Gorilla Is My Butler. You can hear that guitar interplay. And that's pretty clean. That instrumental epitomizes that hiss, the hiss that he was using. And listen to it. Listen to That's Pretty Clean from Sly. That instrumental sounds like a lost Aquemini beat. That beat straight up could be just Aquemini. You know what I'm saying? But, yo, real quick, because we're running out of time, right? As I expected. So I didn't even talk about fucking hip-hop. This is like the funk episode, right? But the real crate that a lot of people don't talk about that I want to mention, and not only the record is a crate, but the whole group is a crate. And it's a group called the Mother's Finest. Mother's Finest, right, was a group that was hampered by the perceptions of the market. So they were really, really doing heavy metal funk. Like, it was straight heavy metal, you know what I mean? And their singer was this sister named Joyce Kennedy, who had a beautiful, powerful voice. So when she sang through all this heavy metal and funk, she could cut right through it easily. I don't think that she got the shine because she has a very Shaka Khan-like style. Very Shaka Khan-ish, though. So, you know, Shaka Khan's going to win out, you know what I mean? But musically, Mother's Finest had a lot to share, you know? And when you go through their albums, right, the Mother's Finest debut in 1976 blended that rock funk or rather funked rock through Joyce's soul vocals. But then the next album, Another Mother Further in 77, it's a strong blend of funk rock, but it's more rooted in wilder funk. Right? They're still having difficulty with what the industry and what they're thinking the fans want. Then in 1978, Mother Factor, the rock funk is there, right? But people already like a more disco approach. So even though with, Kennedy's, her voice fits right in, the album ends up being like almost an album that people could dismiss because they could say we already have Shaka Khan. It's the way it was produced, but it's a great album. Then in 1981, they did Straight Edge. And this album, they did it straight heavy metal. It's straight heavy metal where her voice going through. And it's funny because I don't know my heavy metal like that. I got to ask around with some of my heavy metal heads like my brother and hard rock brothers. It definitely, I think, was a precursor to things like worldwide stuff like The Gathering with Annette Van Giersberg, where you have a lush, gorgeous voice singing through heavy metal. You know what I mean? And but the record I'm talking about, it's not progressive like that one or the ones before. It's from 1983 called One Mother to Another. So the album cover, she looking right on it. That's enough to get the album, right? You collect it. You know what I mean? But it's basically, it's nothing innovative. It's basically, the reason I love it is because I'm a sucker for thick bass lines. Brothers, we like everything thick, and I like bass lines thick. And the bass lines are real thick. And her singing is beautiful throughout. It's just, by this time, she knows, and the producers know, they're giving her songs that just make her sound gorgeous. They're not caring about being innovative or nothing. They're just saying like, yo, let's give her funk that's going to make her sound gorgeous. You know what I mean? And it's one of those albums, so you're going to love it when you get it, though. It's got a lot of sound of the day, like songs like What Kind of Fool sounds like an Ike and Tina Turner funk exchange. You know what I mean? Some Kind of Madness has guitar grooves all around. In My Baby's Arms is a typical 80s diluted funk where with pop rock funk on Take Me to the Middle, the sexy glide for Big Shot Romeo with the isolation, and then the chorus explosion, the super thick bass smash on Love Me Too. None of this is innovative, but it sounds real good when Kennedy powers through it, you know what I mean? And you're going to love it, though. So, it's just a great album, you know what I mean? And I'm going to save some stuff for later, but I'm going to leave off with one note. I haven't published my bigger piece on the reel of 2018 because I published already the short version in One World magazine. Even though it's harder to get that than going to the web, it's already out. But the reason is that I really want to give a history of this year that just passed because I find it one of the most crucial years that will influence the way music is going to be made. The records themselves, I don't think I heard massive innovation that will affect the next levels. But the quantity and the quality that was with the massive quantity and a lot of other trends that I mentioned in my previous show, the show 32, I needed to write all that stuff and not just say it on the show. So it's going to be cataloged and written down and stuff. And some real detail and segments in that long piece on different artists and what trends they were doing and what they were doing to give everything credit. So it's becoming a whole scholarly work. So that's why. But I'm having fun doing it. But until next time, there'll definitely be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce, right? For now, I'm your host, Suni Azallah, a.k.a. Skilla Straight or Low, and as always, the Power Right Show is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.